Hi, everybody. Welcome to All Things Metaphysical podcast with Kellie and Gail. I am the Gail part.
I am the Kellie part, not the Gail part.
This is episode 23.
Yay.
Would have been funnier if it was episode 22, but
It would have, but
it's
oh well.
to 22. Or as I put it on the mandala I created today, 2.02.2022. Almost like today is almost like a binary code.
Probably is, actually.
So it's just kind of interesting because they said, no, you have to write it this way. And I'm like, but I wanted to write it 2/2/22. And they're like, no. Okay.
Okie dokie.
So the picture says 2.02.2022.
It's an interesting picture, though. I like it.
Yeah, we were talking a little bit. If anyone wants to see the mandala, it is on my Facebook business page, No Nonsense Intuitive. And it was a portal of light that came through. But the interesting thing to me is yesterday was Lunar New Year, right? Lunar New Year, and the water and the tiger. But the interesting thing around this mandala, it looked like an I Ching symbol to me.
Which is appropriate for Chinese New Year.
Yeah, but I just thought that was really interesting. I hadn't thought about it while I was driving. I was thinking about it more as a portal. And the I Ching kind of is a portal to get you to different places and to travel. So it's just really interesting to me. And it's in the colors that the light transmission pictures are always in, aqua and like lime chartreuse colors. So if anyone wants to see it, you can on Facebook, you can go to No Nonsense Intuitive, or it's on Instagram at No Nonsense Intuitive. So either one. So there, I've plugged myself. I never do.
Yay! And really, everyone should go look at it anyway, even if they're not curious, just to look you up.
So we were going to talk about 2/2/22 today. I can't say it. It's like I'm really stumbling to say it that way. What are your impressions from today? There were some major portals that opened today.
There are, well, the energy around my place has been weird for a while now, but in general, it's Imbolc is like the precursor to spring. And then when you combine the new moon with a Celtic festival, and then you've got Chinese New Year, and then you've got all these other things that people are celebrating, it's a really powerful energy that's coming through. And yet it's kind of a gentle rebirth, starting over kind of energy too. So in most people's houses, it's very pleasant. Maybe not.
I like how you say in most people's houses.
Yeah, it's
you got some fun stuff going on in your house.
I've always had some fun stuff going on, but it's come to a head, and it's the timing really has been interesting to me because it sort of started around the winter solstice here, and now we're in Imbolc, and it's sort of halfway point between the winter solstice and spring, and it's finally coming to a head. So I'm trying to take advantage of the spring rebirth energy and direct all of this kind of to come to a resolution.
For what it's worth, as you're talking, they're just singing the song "It's the Final Countdown" by Europe in my head.
It's the way it feels. Yeah.
It's like the final showdown.
Yeah, it will be interesting how things play out between the show we're doing today and the show next week. I'm really looking forward to that difference with everything I've got going on here. It'll be entertaining, maybe. Who knows?
To all our viewers who are watching, please feel free to ask questions. We are happy to answer questions in real time. You can try and stump the two intuitives and see if we would be able to answer the questions.
Always a fun game.
I was actually thinking about that, and most of the time, and we talked about this a little bit, most of the time that I get readings, I get people who just say, "I just want you to tell me what's coming through." I'm like, "Do you have any questions?" "No, I want to test you to see what you know." We were just talking about that because it's really funny. I mean, I every time I do a reading, I normally get that.
Hmm.
The difference for me is every now and then I'll get someone who has, "No, I have a lot of questions." And I'm like, "Oh, thank
Right, right. No, I had a reading recently where someone did just that. What are you seeing? What's coming through for me?
God."
And somebody said it's under the couch. And
Mhm,
I said, all right, I'm hearing it's under the couch. And she said, wait, what? I've been looking for my keychain everywhere,
mhm,
and it was under the couch. So sometimes when they start out like that, it's kind of an interesting thing.
mhm,
But yeah, when they say that to me, the other thing that I get is I want to talk to this person, only this person, and you can't make someone. What am I supposed to do? Drag them kicking and screaming? They're not going to be happy to talk to you then. So
Yeah, I've been getting emails. I know a lot of people who've recently lost people, and they're like, "I want to do a reading with you, and I want you to talk to them." And I'm like, "Well, I can do the reading. I can't promise that that's going to be who comes through." And like, "But
right,
that's all I want to hear from." I'm like, "Again, happy to do a reading for you. I'd give it a little bit of time since they just crossed over, like towards the end of last week, and then but I can't promise that's going to be who comes through."
right.
So our one of our viewers wrote, "Okay, I lost my oracle cards. Any idea where they are?" I still think you packed them in a box.
I see them in an enclosed place. Yeah, yeah. They could be under something though
Mhm,
too. It's dark and confined. Yeah.
mhm. I feel like spirit moved them just to mess with you a little bit, which they've been doing with me like crazy. They're just moving stuff around, and then I go to look for it and I can't find it.
Yep. Yep.
That's been
I've
quite
had that. Yeah.
interesting. I hope your son-in-law didn't toss them as well. I don't
Me
think they
too.
did. I feel like you packed them in a box and you just don't remember. So
So where's the box?
with all the other boxes that are packed up, and when you move and go through the boxes, you're gonna find them.
Hmm.
I don't think you want to open all your boxes, and I think your flute is with it.
Mm.
I think that you packed it probably before one of the showings, not even realizing that you packed it to clean up and make everything look good, and then you forgot that you did it because you were in such a hurry. That's my guess.
Yeah. And that is something I have done myself.
My
So
spirit team is laughing. They're like, "That's not a guess." So since I took the day off of work and I'm wearing a t-shirt because I didn't work today that says snow day, because where I am, we've gotten lots and lots of snow today. And I thought it'd be really fun to have off to 22.
hmm.
Um, so I've just been hanging out. I watched some things today. So my guides are very present with me today.
Yeah.
I found my missing crystals, so I was really happy.
Yay. Anytime you find missing crystals is a good thing. Oddly enough,
Yes.
I found one in a cat bed. I know I didn't put it there. And I don't know how the cat would have moved it, but it was there with the cat. So
So our viewer with the missing oracle card said, "That's what I was thinking." So I really think that you were like just in a daze and you just don't even remember packing them, and that when you unpack, you will find them. According to the news in Cincinnati, we're going to be a mess tomorrow and Friday. Send us enough energy to shovel snow and ice, please. Okay.
I have to say, this time of year, I am so happy I do not have to deal with that. Where I live, we do get snow. There's snow out there right now, but I don't have to shovel anything. There's usually no problem with roads. It's amazing. Though I did live in South Dakota, so I'm familiar with shoveling snow.
I like to look at it. I don't like to drive in it. Like, it's really pretty when you get the first snow of the season and everything is dusted white. I really think that that's cool. After that, it kind of loses its in, being that I get to work from home now, even though I took the day off, it was really nice to just kind of watch it, knowing I didn't have to be out in it.
Hmm.
And then tomorrow, lucky me, they're testing the fire alarms in the building I live in. So that should make for a fun, no stressful day.
Yeah, I would not enjoy that at all.
It's going to be very loud.
Yeah, I actually, I have very tall ceilings, and a week or so ago, my smoke detectors were just going off for no reason. They're hardwired into the house. There's no battery. They were just going off to annoy me in the middle of the night. So I actually got a garden hoe and stood on a step ladder and pulled them down off the ceiling. So now I don't have to deal with that. But that was just maddening. I can't imagine testing fire alarms and being there.
So one of our viewers said, "I've been to South Dakota, loved it, would not want to live there in winter. Since Cincinnati is not as bad compared to South Dakota."
No, I can tell you, we had a two-story house and the snow was up to the second floor. And I thought it was great because I was a kid. So I opened my bedroom window and slid down, uh, much to the chagrin of my parents. But it was great for me because I was a kid then. But when I went back when I was older and I was actually shoveling snow and trying to drive on the icy road, it was not fun. Did not like it. Don't recommend. No.
Well, I think the interesting thing is people who have SUVs, which I have an SUV because you almost have to,
Yeah.
have four-wheel drive to live in environments like this. Just because you have a four-wheel drive doesn't mean that you're not going to be affected by the weather, especially ice.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's just always interesting to me.
Yeah. I have a four-wheel drive, and several years, like 8, maybe 10 years ago, here we got a foot of snow overnight. And people here, I'm in Arizona, do not know what to do with snow on the road. And I pulled 3 different people out of the ditch on the side of the road on my way to my office that morning. So, yeah, people here, no, doesn't work.
So what else do you think about the energy? I feel like today, with the new moon, Lunar New Year, and 2/2/22, that a portal was open today and that it'll be closing on 2/22/22.
Yeah, I think so too. There's probably several of them. I know the energy between now and the 22nd is still going to stay high because we're in that, sort of a time of vortex, if you will, is what I've been told to call it, where everything is starting over. There's a lot of rebirth. There's a lot of projects that people have been thinking about doing or been working on that they're going to find either accelerate rapidly if that's what they're supposed to do, or they're going to fall away if that's not what they're meant to do. So it's going to be interesting. I have several friends who are in the middle of either opening a business or just opened a business. And it's going to be interesting to see what businesses are still open in a couple of months. It's just sometimes people get ideas and they sound really good and they work up a business plan and it looks profitable. But if that's not what you're supposed to do during this time, especially, you're not going to do it. It's just going to fall apart. And people always get really upset and they call me and go, "Well, what happened?" Told you. You have to work with the energy. You'll get a lot further if you flow downstream in the direction that everything is flowing rather than fighting upstream. But we are humans and we think we know better.
Oh, I forgot. Mercury's coming out of retrograde tomorrow too. So that's another little wrench in things. So those of you watching, let us know if you have any questions. So somebody was talking about the portal. I've been places and seen stuff. I'm tired and Yeah, I think it's about just honoring the direction you're meant to go for you
Right.
and following that versus maybe what the direction is or the vision that other people have for you is.
And make sure that if you're following a path that you want to go down, make sure it really is what you want.
Mhm.
I've started 36 businesses in my life. How many of them do I still have one? You know, it's just you hear something or you think of an idea and you think, oh, that would be fun. And when you do it, you realize it's not as much fun as you thought it would be,
Mhm.
or it's not as profitable as you planned on. Um, if you find yourself in that position,
Mhm.
don't worry about just stopping and do something else because there will always be something better. If you feel like, you know what, this really isn't resonating with me like I thought it would, it's okay to give it up and do something else. Really, it is.
So that leads me to how do you know what your purpose or your path is?
You guess. A lot. um, what I've always done is I meditate and I meditate on that question.
Mhm.
Why am I here? And pretty much my entire life, I have gotten mediumship. I have gotten energy healer. I have gotten teacher. Well, I didn't like any of those. So I discarded them completely and
Mhm.
went on to do something else. And yet it always comes back. So whatever your purpose is, you can ignore it for decades, doesn't matter. It will always come back around. Always.
I know we've both talked about being reluctant mystics,
Hmm.
not really wanting to take our place in the world till recently.
Yep.
Although
Yeah.
I kind of outed myself when I wrote the first book with you. And
Yeah.
there really wasn't much coming back after that.
No, that's true.
And then all the podcasts I did talking about all the interesting experiences that I have had in my life. So, yeah.
Yeah. Still, it's different. Um, it's different knowing it yourself
Hmm.
and accepting it yourself and going out into the world and say, this is who I am. Because even though I've done podcasts talking about the same stuff for literally a decade now, I started in 2012. I still am kind of in the shadows. I'm still kind of just peeking around the door, seeing if I really want to walk into the room. And I think we are getting to that time where there's not going to be a choice.
Hmm.
You know, it's like you're either walking into this onto the stage voluntarily or you're going to be drugged. And I'm feeling that very strong. And a lot of other people I've spoken to have said the same thing. It's kind of like, this is it.
It's interesting that you said you started podcasting in 2012, the end of the Mayan calendar, which everyone thought was the end of the world.
Hmm.
Interesting if you look at that and kind of how we started the podcast of the changes that you're making and finally letting go of some of those things. It's really interesting when you start to put it together and look at the timeline,
Yeah.
which I'm sure you have done, but it just kind of struck me as you were saying that.
Well, there are no accidents and there are no coincidences. I don't care what anyone says, there just aren't. And everything that we do, um, we're going to go down the right path eventually, even if we're reluctantly doing it. We're going to end up where we're supposed to be. I just took the scenic route.
One of our viewers said my spiritual journey started in 2012 as well. There was a lot that was going on in 2012. It was a very big portal opening
Yeah.
for us so that we could get to where we are now. We had to do it in stages. So,
Yeah. The first podcast that I did when I started with a different group of people. I don't even know what happened to these people. They like vanished from the planet, but they were there telling me, you need to do this. This is what you need to do. Here, I'll set it up. All you have to do is talk. And they did.
hmm,
And, I did maybe 6 months of podcasts with them. And all of a sudden they said, hey, yeah, we're closing. We're going to move to a different country. And good luck. You should keep doing this. And they vanished. But it was that group of people that started me on this because I have always, I started doing energy healing
Mhm.
and readings in 1985. And I had just been kind of
Well,
sitting
actually, you really started doing them at birth, but
birth, but yeah, I started getting paid for them in 1985. And I was just happy sitting in my house doing readings for people, doing Reiki. And uh, people kept like coming to my house and dragging me out. No, you need to do this talk. No, you need to teach this class. No, you need. And it was finally 2012. That's how long it took for
mhm,
me to say, all right, fine, I get it. I'll do this.
mhm.
But even then, it was reluctantly. People would say, how many people listen to your podcast? Oh, I don't know. Hopefully, no one.
So someone wrote you a comment saying one of those when the student is ready, the teacher shows up lessons.
Yeah.
How have your gifts been added to over time or have changed somehow or gotten stronger with one gift over the other?
I don't know. I think, at least in my case, it was a matter of me finally admitting that I had the gifts that I had.
Mhm.
It wasn't necessarily working on them or getting stronger. It was just me saying, all right, fine, I get it. You know, and I think you kind of did the same thing. You go along life and you're like, I'm not normal. I need to hide in the shadows. I'm not normal. So,
Well, I'll never forget, like, when I was taking my opening to intuition course, which was a week course, and that's how I chose to have my reopening, so to speak. And I went down to breakfast one morning, and the teacher just looks at me and says, "Did you have to bring that many people with you?" And I'm like, "What are you talking about?" She's like, "You have an entire entourage, and they don't even fit in this house."
yeah.
And I'm like, "Again, what are you talking about?" And she's like, "Can't you feel them?" I'm like, "You're making it seem like this is new to me. This is what's been with me my entire life. I don't know any different in this lifetime." She was so annoyed with me. She's like,
Yeah.
"Well, reel it in. You're getting a gatekeeper and you're only allowed to bring that one person to class." I'm like, "Yeah, okay."
Yeah. The first Reiki class that I went to, and I've been doing energy work before,
Mhm.
I finally took this class. I walked in and the teacher looked at me and she went, really? Come on up. You're teaching. And I'm like, what? I don't know what I'm doing. And she says, you know more than you think. And it was just constant things like that. Every workshop I tried to go to, or I had classes that people refused to let me come back. And
Mhm.
it was just, you're going to make me look bad. Go away. So, after you go through so many of those, you either start stepping into your gifts
Mhm.
or you say, there is something tragically wrong with me. I'm going to go sit in the corner now. And I just
I
finally,
did the latter. I went and sat in the corner.
I did for a while too. Yeah. It's a weird thing when you are surrounded by people who don't see things you see. They don't hear things. They don't know things. They can't do what you do energetically. It's really difficult to be surrounded by what a friend of mine calls mere mortals. Because it's sort of like the Muggles and
Mhm.
Harry Potter.
Well, and I believe honestly that every one of us has gifts. So
Mhm.
to answer the question is the more you work on using your gifts, the stronger your gifts get.
And that is true. Yeah.
And I mean, I think that sometimes based on life experiences, we learn to shut our gifts down as we get up in order to survive. So it's not that sometimes you're getting new gifts. It's that gifts come back at different times when you need them and are ready for them. You've always had them, you just didn't necessarily know. And I've had very similar experiences with teachers. They're like, "Why are you here? You know how to do this." I'm like, "Well, if I consciously knew how to do this, I wouldn't have taken the class."
Right.
Yes, I'm sure my soul does know how to do this. On a human level, I need to remember how to do this. And I was very much into, in the beginning, I wanted certifications to prove that I could do what I did. And so I took a bunch of classes and I annoyed a lot of teachers.
Yeah. Yeah. I went the certification route for a long time too. And finally, I realized that I had a piece of paper, but I came to a knowing that in many cases, I knew more than those teachers did. It's like once I started allowing myself to remember and allowing myself to embrace who I am, then, it was like the walls fell down and here's all these wonderful things that I had forgotten about.
And I took an Akashic record class, and I'll never forget this. And so the lady we read, it was I since took a different Akashic record class because I needed another one. And so I'm sitting there, and I think I told this before, is I'm explaining what the Hall of the Records looks like. I'm explaining the Lords of the Akashic Records, and I'm explaining everything. She's like, "You can see all that?" I'm like, yeah, it's right there. Can't you? You're teaching the class. So it's just really interesting. I got to a point when I took classes where I just wouldn't talk. Unless I was called on, I just stopped answering anything, and then everyone would just stare at me.
Yeah.
And so, at some point, the student becomes the teacher, and that was not something I was ever really comfortable with doing till recently.
Yeah.
So, but it's definitely time. And so some of the comments that we've been getting is, thanks to you guys, I'm able to relax and allow stuff rather than overthink everything. Still a ton of work to do, but making progress. Thanks to you normalizing the psychic abilities.
That's a sweet comment.
And I think that was one of the reasons why we wanted to start this, because we've both had some pretty off the chart experiences. I believe that I don't get the last part, but I get the beacon of light part. So one of the nicknames that the people that I work with have given me, human beings that I work with that I'm helping to mentor and guide and stuff, or just keep referring to me as the beacon of light. It just makes me laugh. And then every time I pick a card in a deck when I'm doing readings for people, and I pick one for myself, it is always a card that has to do with light. It's just really funny. So again, that reluctant mystic part.
Yep. Yeah, I think there are many of us that are here to express our gifts and to help humanity.
It was autocorrect. That's why it's just the beacon of light. Yes.
But we tend to think that somebody else knows more than we do, and we tend to want, I need that class, I need this class, I need this class. And it was to the point where one evening I was literally online looking for different classes that I could enroll in. And Metatron says, stop, enough pieces of paper. And I went, oh, okay. But that's what it took for me. It took for someone to literally say enough. And now I still might look at classes, but I don't take so many.
Yeah, I get hours for my license. I generally tend to weigh more towards metaphysical stuff for my counseling license. So I still end up taking, but I usually, like I said, don't talk classes anymore. So
Sit in the back.
it's really hard for me because I oftentimes, and I don't know if you have this experience, but I do want to correct the teachers when they're wrong.
Yeah.
Or when there's more to what they're saying than what they've said. Like I want to go into all the detail around it. And it's not because I'm a know-it-all. It's because I have my spirit guide saying, no, they're leaving this part out. They're leaving this part out. And okay.
But what about when this happens? Yeah.
You can tell me all those details you want. I'm not raising my hand and doing it.
No, I got to the same point. I just sit in the back, keep my mouth shut. And then they say, well, why don't you say anything? Oh, believe me, you don't want me to.
Well, and that's the dilemma, isn't it? Because when you do that, it's almost like being re-silenced, which is what happened to a lot of us when we were growing up.
Yep.
because we knew so much. Like I know for me, my parents didn't let me actually talk. They would answer questions for me because they were very afraid of what I was going to say and the truth that I was going to share with people.
Yeah.
Whether it was someone was ill or someone was going to pass away or whatever it was, they just didn't want to hear it. So you grow up learning that, and then you have to unlearn all that, and it's more difficult than it sounds.
It is. And I had a weird thing when I was a kid. If they would take me into a nursing home, my grandmother was a nurse and she worked at two different nursing homes and a hospital. And she would take me in and I would go through the halls. Tuesday at 9:30, Wednesday, and I would be right. These people would be passing at that time. And she finally stopped taking me in because I was like the harbinger of death. It's,
My friends told me I needed to think about it as being the angel of death. But,
mm,
it's funny. When I was little, I had a white pedal car, and the little boy down the street kept stealing my pedal car and leaving me with his fire truck. But I thought that that's what was transporting me multidimensionally when I was little. And I'm like, oh my God, he's not going to know what to do. And like, I would be so panicked that he had my car because I thought that's how it happened.
mhm,
I didn't realize it was me at the time. I mean, I was probably like 3 or 4
yeah.
doing all that. So it's just really interesting.
Yeah, I had a rocking chair that I was convinced was my rocket ship of some kind because
Mhm.
I would I would rock myself to sleep. It was a rocking chair for children, but I would fall asleep in that chair and I would just come back and go,
I remember when my parents sent me to overnight camp. I think I was 12. I think it was 12, 11 or 12. And I remember I was like on the balcony of like the big general area. And then I was home playing with friends on the side of my house. And then I heard someone calling me. And I'm like, that was the first time I remember bilocating.
yeah,
And I've been told I do it all the time. People see me all over in different places. I'm not even aware when I'm doing it anymore, but
yeah.
it's just really interesting. Apparently, I've been to Brazil and I've been to a bunch of other places as well.
And all over the place. Usually with me, it's if someone that I know or am in some way connected to is sick or in the hospital.
Mhm.
I there was a friend of mine whose granddaughter drowned and they brought her back and she was in the hospital. And the father, which is my friend's son, said, "It was so nice of your friend Kellie to come and see Tegan." She called me and she goes, "Where are you?" "I'm at home." "So you're not in Oregon?" "No." But he clearly saw me
Mhm.
in her hospital room. And it happens. It
Mhm.
happens. Weird, but it does happen.
I know that one of my friends was taking a class, and apparently, I was meditating at the time, and apparently, I went to visit the class. And the teacher told my friend, you need to have your friend leave. She's not a student here. So lots of kind of fun experiences with that.
Yeah,
But it can be scary. Like I remember when I was like 11 or 12 and that happened, I didn't know what it was.
right.
I never told anybody that that happened. So someone wrote, I did travel, but my family denied it happened. I shut that shit down fast.
Yeah,
And
that happens a lot.
that's what we learn to do, and that's why it's really scary. Not only have most of us been killed for our abilities at some point in other lifetimes, but in this lifetime, we had to shut them all down because other people around us couldn't handle, I'll use the term, our light
Right.
for our viewers because that will make them laugh. And so we learn to dim ourselves. We
Yeah.
make a dimmer switch, and then we forget where we put the switch and how to turn it back on again.
Yeah.
So,
In my case, I've always had guides that would like poke me. "Remember this? Remember this? You can do this. Remember this?" And that kept me from shutting down completely because I had very annoying guides that would not let me completely forget. I did try that repeatedly.
Although I pretty much forgot for years. So I pretty much blocked everything out from age 11 or 12 through, so let's see, I was in grad school. So about 20, 21.
Yep.
So I had almost about 7, 8 years of blocking it out completely.
That's one thing with my daughter who says always, I'm starting to realize that not everybody had my mother,
Mhm.
and I feel bad for them because I never let her do that. She would tell me something she had seen or something that she saw in a dream, and we would discuss it. So she never went through that, which I'm very happy about.
So this viewer wrote, "Don't you just love when you tell someone you know something you know is going to happen or what the outcome of a situation is going to be, and they look at you and ask, 'How do you know?'"
See, at this point in my life, I look at them and say, "How do you not?"
That's a great response. I oftentimes say, "I don't know, it's just an inkling or a gut feeling. I just get the sense that this is going to happen."
Yeah.
I believe, and I'll say sometimes I believe in unseen forces. And I said, I can't make you believe or not believe. That's just my belief system. So you can take this information. They like your answer, Kelly. Um, or not. I mean, you can do with it whatever you want. And sometimes I say, because if I don't tell you this, they won't stop repeating it in my head.
Right.
So do with it what you want. I've delivered the message.
Yeah. When my daughter was little, she would hear people would tell her things and
Mhm.
she would go, "Get out." And I always laughed at her, but she says it worked. I don't know.
Yeah, one of the viewers said, "My response is usually, you do remember who you are talking to, right?"
Yeah.
So, but sometimes it's hard, like when catastrophes happen or world events that are not pleasant happen. It's
Mhm.
hard to be intuitive. It's hard to feel all those things. It's hard to get the psychic images of what's happening in the world. And then there's fun parts, like about what we're talking about today. And you can't have one without the other. You either have to embrace all parts of the gift and really, learn how to manage the good, the bad, and the ugly, as I like to say,
Yep.
because it's not always all pleasant.
Oh, no.
So, I mean, I think that it's about realizing that it does eventually balance out, and as much pain and heartache and stuff you see, you also see all the really positive things, and you have that empathic ability to maybe help shift someone or do something differently to help people by the images that you're being seen
Yeah.
shown.
Sometimes those images are truly horrific.
They're pretty horrific. I mean, we've talked about it before, like the 9/11 images were pretty horrific. Um, and some other experiences I've had with all the people I saw who were waiting to cross over and things like that. I
Yeah.
mean, yes, it's very difficult. And we're also doing a service, because by helping those people cross over, they're not stuck in limbo anymore. And they're now back home with whatever you believe that to be. I'll say it that way.
One of the things that a teacher taught me is that the ability to feel those things that are not pleasant is really a gift because then you know where to send energy to. You know where to send love and light to.
Mhm.
And that matters. So many people still aren't buying the whole energy, we're all connected thing. And every time I have a conversation with one of these people, I'm like, how can you not feel something? But a lot of people still don't.
It's interesting. I'm going to plug myself just a little bit more. So different world events have happened, and I've always drawn mandalas, which I just put out in the world, to help the world and things like that. So then I created a book, Energy Mandalas of the World and Humanity, where I took the names of the events off and I didn't really write anything in the book. I gave a little bit of guidance because I wanted people to intuitively use the images where they thought they needed to go at the times that they in the times they needed to go, not necessarily because whatever the crisis was that created the image, it was the energy which is still happening. It's just, different times and things like that. So it was really interesting to me that that was how I was told to do that book because all the pictures had names
Right.
and had explanations with them, but they told me not to use any of that. So,
Yeah. Yeah. That's when I get feedback from different books
mhm,
from people, because I used to do a lot of events
mhm,
and take everybody's books that I had published. That was one of the books that everybody loved the most. They loved the pictures. And, it was always children who
mhm.
would comment on the energy. The adults, oh, that's nice. Oh, that's nice. But the kids are like, whoa, that's really cool. Can you feel that?
Mhm,
And, I sometimes give up on humanity.
mhm.
And it's always the kids that make me have a little more faith.
I remember, I think it might have been that book that I was publishing. And do you remember this? That the guy who was doing because I did the covers because I
Mhm.
wanted it to look a certain way. And he's like, could I have it without the words on it?
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I designed all the covers because it was something about the energy. It's not that I didn't trust other people to do it. It's just
Right.
energetically, it just needed to be a certain way.
Yep. Yep.
So,
And it did. Absolutely.
yeah.
Yep.
So I think out of all the books that I've written, I think probably, well, I have many favorites, but I like the children's book probably the best.
Yeah, I like that one too.
Yeah,
Yep.
so it's all good. All right. Any last things you want to say or bring up today on 2/2/22?
I don't think so. I think everyone needs to be really mindful of the energy.
Mhm,
It's gentle, but it's very, very strong.
mhm.
So you might want to, pay a little bit more attention to you than usual to that.
The force is with us and
Mhm.
within us. We
Yeah.
just have to believe that it is. And that's where a lot of people lose their way. They don't trust that they deserve to have that happy Lunar New Year.
Yep. You too. Yep.
All right. Thanks, everybody. We will see you guys again next week. Have a good week until then. Bye for
Bye.
now.